Hi and welcome to this overview about HP Modeling Bundle. This will be a long video which is meant to show you all the scripts and all the functions and options you have. So this is more meant for people who already work with the scripts and want to know more details. And this is not a tutorial on specific modeling tasks, but it will show you how each script works. And I will split it up into two sections. The first part is about these top scripts here, which are basic functions and general tools which you might use very often. And the second part will be about these tools on the right here. Okay, so let's just go from the left to the right and cover them all. And I will start with HP default camera. So you can, by right-clicking on each script, choose Edit Script. This will open the script manager, where you will find a description of the script. This is a very small script, only these few lines of code. But here it tells you what the scripts do. So you can just, if you're not sure what they do, you can just read that and you get an idea. Okay, the default camera will go into the default viewport camera. So if you have a camera selected and you are inside this camera, the script will jump out into the default camera. Pretty easy. But it will do some more stuff. If you are modeling in components mode and you have selected some components, the script will also jump into model mode. The reason I do this is sometimes you are in a camera for modeling purposes. For example, also if you use the HP modeling camera, you are maybe in components mode because you are modeling. But if you go to the default camera, normally you want to edit your scene and do adjustments. That's why I added this function. You don't need to use this. You can also just use this icon and choose other options to change the camera, like here. But using this with a shortcut, which is by default Alt and Tab, makes it very easy to jump out of the camera. So this is HP default camera. Okay, so let's show you HP paste. This script is actually used with a shortcut, which is Command-Shift-V. And the reason I put this into the layout is just so you see it's there. But actually you would not use this in the layout, you use it with a shortcut. The reason is because HP paste will paste the objects on the surface of other objects and takes into account the mouse position. So it will paste on the position of your mouse. So let's take a cone and scale it down a little bit. And I would just make the axis on the bottom, because the object will be aligned on with this axis. And if I now copy this by pressing Command-C, and now I go with my mouse on some area here on the objects and use the HP paste, the cone will be pasted on this normal of this polygon and is aligned correctly. So this way you can easily paste several objects. You can even paste on a pasted object, so you get something like this. So this is very easy to crowd a scene with objects and make details like this. You can go crazy. Now, I want you to know one thing which is pretty cool. If you, as you saw, I will just undo this. As you saw, the objects will be pasted on the top of the object manager. But if you have a object selected and you paste, you will see the object gets pasted as a child of this object. This is important to know, because let's say you have this cube in a hierarchy, and let's say it's made of several objects. So maybe this is a house or something. And now you have instances of this house. And now you want to paste this cone into all these instances. So all you need to do is select either the house or one of these cubes and paste the cone. And as you can see, the cone is pasted into all instances because they get pasted in this hierarchy. So this is important to know. Keep in mind which object you select to paste your objects. This also works if you go into a new project and you are here in some other project, and you can even paste here your cones in there. So this way you can easily have one file with all your creebles or objects you want to place on several other objects in another scene. You could just use one master scene and copy your object from this scene and paste it into another scene. So that's no problem. Okay, this is HB Paste. Now I will show you HB Solo. So let's say you have some objects in your scene. HB Solo will solo the object and hide all other objects you have not selected. And also it will frame the object you are working on, so it will focus on this object. And if you are in components mode, it will also work on polygon selections. So I have only these two objects now, and I press solo. I will be focused on the cube, and the cone is hidden. The good thing is I can now do my modeling. Let's say I want to do some extrusions, and I can do whatever. And if I now solo again, I will jump back to the position where I was before. So this is really handy if you have a big scene with many objects, many big and small objects, and you have your camera set and you have animated your camera, and you see that this object here needs some tweaking. This will jump out of your camera. So let's make a camera, and I'm inside this animated scene camera. So now I see I want to tweak this object, which is far behind any other objects, and I want to focus just on this. I will solo, and it will jump out of my camera, will go into the default camera, and I can focus on this object. Now I will just do some adjustments, and now I'm done, and I will solo again, and this will jump back into the camera I was before. And even if I was not in any camera, it will jump to the position where I were before. So pretty handy. And this also works with polygons, so if I have selected some polygons and I press solo, it will solo only the selected polygons I have. So this is using the internal built-in solo function, but it does quite a few things more which are pretty handy. HB model mode and HB toggle mode are two scripts which belong together, so I will do them in one rush. And these are probably the smallest but most useful scripts of the whole collections. It's hard to explain, I will try my best, but I think as these commands are what you do most of the time when you are modeling, this is very important. So I will try to explain this and so you understand the benefit of using these instead of doing this manually. So let's say you have a cube which is inside of a subdivision surface, and we have a spline which is inside a sweep. Of course you would have many of these generators and polygons and splines of objects, so you have usually tons of these. Now to edit a object, you would select it in the viewport and you would go to points mode, and then you see no points because you have selected the generator. Anytime you select a object here in the viewport, if it's not a polygon object, it's you select the generator, but you want to edit the polygon object inside the generator. So you have to go into the object manager and select the cube. Now you go to points mode and now you can edit the points. So the same goes, for example, with sweep knob. You go to points mode, you can't do anything, you need to select the arc, and then you have the problem the spline is inside the sweep, so you need to deactivate it to see it and can make adjustments. Another problem is if you have instances. So let's say we have this object and many instances of this. Now if you are somewhere in your scene and you want to select this object and want to edit it, you can't. You go to points mode and you cannot edit. Of course not, because it's an instance. So these scripts take care of all this. So let me show you. So I'm in my scene and I want to edit this. So I just select it and I use these with shortcuts because I use them so often. So it's Alt-1, Alt-2. Remember these both, it's very important, you will use it so much. So it's Alt-1 to go to model mode and it's Alt-2 to toggle the components. Now if I press Alt-2, I will instantly be able to tweak points. Because the script noticed I have selected a subdivision surface. So I don't care about this, I want to edit the polygon object, so I select it. So the script checks each selected object here and acts accordingly to make the selections in the object manager for you. The same goes if I select a sweep and I press this, I can instantly tweak the points of the spline because that's what I want. I can also see the spline because it's in X-ray mode, so I can see through the sweep. Also, if I have selected a instance, for example, now I press Alt-2 and now this will do some things. It will create a modeling camera which is my HP modeling camera, and it will focus on the object which is instanced, so I get the reference object. And also it goes to point mode. So let me show you. I select any instance like this, and I want to make edits to this instance. So I press Alt 2, and I am right where the polygon object is, and I can do my adjustments. And now I just use the HP default camera, and it will bring me back where I were, and I can see all instances are updated. And I am back to where I was in my scenes looking at the instance. So this is also connected with the HP default camera. So you use the toggle mode to jump into the reference object with a modeling camera, and then you go back to default camera and you are back where you were. So this is also very handy. This works with several objects. So if you have this selected and this, and you use toggle mode, you can instantly edit all the points of all selected objects. This works also with more complex hierarchies. So this is very simple and very useful in your daily work. And I would say these are the major scripts when you look at it, like this is what you use most often. And it will save you most clicks, I guess. I covered HB delete in the introduction video, but I will show it quite fast here. So HB delete can be used with modifier keys. If you hover over the script, you will see all the modifier keys you can use. And also it behaves different if you're in model mode or in components mode. So let's say, oops, I have this deformer. This is polygonal. If I'm in model mode and I press delete, it will just delete. That's the usual delete. If I press shift, this will delete the children of all selected objects. So even if you have several of these cubes and you select them here, and you want to get rid of all deformers, you would press shift delete, and it will delete all the deformers inside the cube. Let's say you have all these cubes in subdivision surfaces, and you want to get rid of the subdivisions. You would select them and press Ctrl delete. And this will delete the parent object. So it will keep the children but delete the objects you have selected. Now if you are in components mode, and let's say I have selected this edge loop, I can now delete this, and it will delete the edges, but it will also, if I go to points mode, delete the points. If I press shift delete, it will delete all connected components. So let's do this and clone these. So I have now, these are one object, and if I select only one polygon of this connected polygon island and press shift delete, it will delete all connected polygons. This is really handy. You sometimes want to delete connected parts, and you can just, if you have many, you can just, to delete all these, you can just run the selection fast and press shift delete, and it will delete everything connected. if you have selected some components and you press Ctrl Delete, this will keep the surface, but it will dissolve the polygons or edges. So if you have an edge ring selected, this will dissolve the edge ring. So you get rid of unnecessary edge loops. Okay, I think this is it for HB delete. Let's keep going with HB move and scale and rotate. These three scripts are really simple, but they will help you with saving some clicks, like any script. So let's say you are in components mode and you are selecting some points and you have hidden your axis, and you want to now, after you selected them, you want to move them. So you go, normally you would go to the move tool and you don't see the axis. Too bad. But if you use this script, it will show the axis, because my logic is, if you want to move something, you want to see the axis. I really rarely don't want to see the axis. I want to hide the axis when I select components. So that's because sometimes the axis is in the way and you want to be able to select points on the axis. So you hide the axis, but now it's time to move the points, so they should enable the move. Another thing you can do is pressing the shift, and if you press shift move, it will enable quantize moving. So you will now move in 100 centimeters or 100 units quantizing. You can change the quantizing if you go to modeling mode here in the attributes manager and go to quantize. You can change the movement value here. And if you press move again without pressing shift, it will disable quantizing. So you see here, now it's disabled. And if I press shift, it will enable quantizing. I made this mainly also because many times I want, for example, if you have something like this, I want to scale these points down on the Y so they get to 0. So I just press HB scale with holding shift, and now I can scale them to 0, because quantizing is also on for scaling, and this helps me to flatten out things. So I would select this and shift scale, and now I can just flatten these out more easily, like this. The same with rotation. So if you shift press, it will make 45-degree quantize rotation. And if I press without shift, it's without quantizing. Okay, this is move, scale, and rotate. Now it's time for the HB Rotator. This is a script which lets you rotate objects around an axis in 90-degree steps. So if you press it without any modifier, it will rotate around the H-axis. You can see this here. As you can see, it will just add 90 degree anytime you press it. If you hold Alt, it will rotate in the other direction. So it will now decrease 90 degrees. If you hold Shift, it will rotate around the P-axis. As you can see here, holding Shift, and it will rotate here. If you hold Shift and Alt, it will decrease the P-axis rotation. If you hold Ctrl, you will rotate around the B-axis, banking. And the same goes with Ctrl Alt to decrease the banking. Now you have messed up here your rotation, and also you have messed up your position. You can also use this script to reset position and rotation. So if you press Shift and Ctrl, this will reset the rotation. So Shift and Ctrl reset rotation. If you press Shift, Ctrl and Alt, this will reset position and rotation. So this is also quite handy for rigging, and this also works for many objects. So let's say I have some objects here, and they are all somewhere in the space, and they are all rotated. So I could just select them all and press Shift Ctrl, and they get reset only in rotation. Shift Ctrl Alt will reset all to 0. If they are in a null object grouped, they will reset to the 0 position in the local space. Okay, this is the HB rotator. So now let's look at these snapping scripts. So I would just make a plane and polygon. So now let's say I want to snap this point to a polygon here. Normally you would go enable snapping, and then you would see, oh, I need to turn on polygon snapping, but I don't want also to have vertex snapping enabled, so I disable this. Now I can snap on the surface for retopology, for example. This is, as you could see, like 3 or 4 clicks, and this is why my snapping scripts work differently. So if you use, let me disable this, or let's enable vertex snap and disable snap. Here on the left you can see which modes are active. So now you just need to press polygon snap, and this will enable snap, will enable polygon snap, and it will disable all other snapping modes. So I'm only polygon snapping. Now if you want to also enable vertex snap, if you press vertex snap, you can see polygon snap gets disabled. Now if you want to snap to polygons and vertices, you can just shift click on any HB snapping script, and it will add the snapping mode. So now I can snap to polygons and vertices, but now I want to snap this only to the working plane. So I use this script, and now I only snap to the work plane and not to polygons anymore. So you can use modifier keys, Shift and Alt. Shift to add this snapping to the mode, and Alt to Control to disable this mode, but not touch the other modes. If you just click it, it will only select this mode you have clicked on. Okay, that's it for the snapping modes. You have here all the snapping scripts, and here are also some of the main scripts which you would use mostly, I think. Okay, let's talk about HB guides color. Let's say you have some guides in your scene. By default, these are black, and this is not so good to see in the viewport. So if you want to see the guides better, you can use HB guides color and just choose a color, and it will color all the guides of your scene in this color. So this is just a helper to make the same you could do manual, but this takes a bit more clicks. So you could go here, select all your guides, but maybe these are hidden somewhere, and you could choose display color and change it here. But HB guides color does this just a bit easier, right? Okay. Okay, let's look at HB modeling camera. So let's say we have modeled this very nice house with a roof, and now we want to focus on this part of the roof. So if you select these polygons and use HB modeling camera, this will firstly create a modeling camera which is aligned to the polygons, in like if you would look at a top view, and the projection is parallel. So you can now work on these polygons as if you would look on them from the top view. Also, if you now insert any object, it will be inserted right on this polygons from the top, because this is the working plane now. If you go back to HB default camera, you will jump out and it will delete the HB modeling camera, and you are back where you were. So this is also connected with the HB default camera. As you can see, some scripts are somehow connected. So if you run this and now you run default camera, this will take care of the modeling camera as well. So this works with object selections or with polygon selections. So let's say I have this side selected, I go to modeling camera, I'm looking at this side of the object. Going back to default camera, I'm back where I were. Okay. Now I want to talk about these three scripts here. There's HB Clean View and HB Fast Viewport. To show you HB Fast Viewport, I like to use this watch project from the content browser, because it's quite a heavy scene with quite a lot of OpenGL effects. So this is, as you can see down here, this is moving at 7 to 10 frames per second. And now if I run Fast Viewport, you can see I get like 30 frames per second. So it speeds up the scene quite a bit. Now, to explain you what this script does, I can open the script manager, and here you can see a list of all the settings this script is doing. So it will change all these settings, and if you press the script again, it will reset to the settings you had before. The HB Clean View will turn off anything you don't need when you model. So when you are modeling, you don't need to see the lights, you don't need to see the cameras, you don't need to see so much. And this will just take care of these display filters. And if you press again, you are back where you were. If you press Shift Clean View, so I hold Shift and press it, it will turn off even more stuff. The same goes for Fast Viewport. If you press Shift, This will mean it will even turn off deformers, and also it will turn off expressions. So if you want a really fast viewport, you can turn this on with Shift, and then you will get a really fast viewport. But keep in mind, it will also turn off like expressions and stuff that you might want to see in your scene. I will do next the HB divider. So the HB divider script is quite handy if you want to optimize your scene, or if you just want to subdivide or undivide stuff. For example, the simplest example is a cube, which at the moment has 3 segments. If I turn this, it will increase the segments of the cube. Pretty simple. And on the opposite, if you press Alt, it will decrease the segments. So increasing and decreasing. And if you have a crazy amount and you want to set it to the default settings, you can just hold Control and press the script, and this will set everything to the default settings. So this works for any object, so even on splines and on polygons. So let's say I have this converted and I have selected polygons, and I run divide. It will divide actually the geometry. I cannot undo this. I can undo it, but I cannot use the script to unsubdivide divided polygons. So take care of this. You can just divide polygons. This works with any object I set. So let's see what happens if I have a spline and a sweep. So if I select the sweep object and I press subdivide, you can see it will subdivide the sweep. What it does, it takes care about the spline, which has an angle here, or maybe it has some uniform numbers here. So it will change these, and also the end sides or the spline which makes the profile. So you can see this is pretty simple to reduce the amount of segments of any object. So this works for splines, this works for subdivision surfaces, this works even for cloner objects. So let's say you have a MoGraph cloner object, and let's put this to grid, and now you want more clones. You just divide and it will increase the clone number. You can also reset to default, and you can increase and decrease. If you want to subdivide the clones itself, you just select the clones and divide or undivide. This works with any objects here, with generators, with these array and atom, with metaballs. So if you have metaballs, this will increase and decrease the amount of editor subdivisions and render subdivisions. So let's say you have this metaball object and you want to see more detail, you just divide this, and now you see more detail. Default, more detail, less detail, very simple. And the good thing about this, let me just show you this. If you have many different objects, like cubes, cones, metabors, hypernerbs, array objects, and let me just use this. Oops. So you have many different objects. Let me just add a spline with a sweep. Now you can just select all these objects and run the subdivision script, and you can see it will subdivide. So it works on all kinds of objects and also with multiple selections. So this helps you to optimize a scene, to get rid of unnecessary polygons, and this makes it really fast to optimize.